Today we'll discuss about the DC and AC motors for traction service, and this class is important for 5th semester diploma students. So in in your traction motors, DC and AC motors both are used. So we will select the motors. While selecting, what are the things we should consider and what are the characteristics of a DC and a AC motor, we will discuss in our today's class. So in a series and a compound motors are employed for DC traction system, whereas single phase, series and three phase induction motor are used on AC systems. So students, whenever you will find that the system is employing AC motors or AC systems, you will find that it will have single phase series and three phase induction motors. If it is of DC motors, then you will see then there is a use of series and compound motors. Now, the service condition being extremely severe, the motors have to conform to a very robust design and must necessarily to totally enclosed type to protect them from water and dust, etc. So, students, considering the environmental conditions, because the traction system or the whole engine has to be in a exposure of very severe climatic conditions, because it will operate for 365 into 24 into 7 hours. Now during this time it will undergo from various climatic condition also, and depending upon the nature of the the nature of the environment of that particular region, the system will be exposed to that kind of environment. So it should be totally able to withstand those dust also, moist also. So these things it should, it should tolerate those kind of difficulties. So considering these environmental conditions, we have to select the enclosures. Now, what are the general requirements? We will focus. Traction motor must possess the following characteristics. Give a series characteristics operation with high starting torque, because it is obvious that during starting these motors will be loaded, no doubtly. So huge loads also, that too huge loads will be there. So this motor should possess high starting torque. They should also possess robust in construction, though of lightweight and smaller size. See, the weight as compared to the mass which it has to move is somewhat lesser. So we can say that it is a lightweight and smaller size. So it should be robust in construction so as not to destroy the traction motors or the traction systems. So it should be robust in construction. The ability to withstand sudden voltage rise should also be there. So students, there will be a surge of voltage due to rise in the loads or sudden decrease in load. So it should have the ability to withstand sudden voltage rise, and simple speed control and braking should be also there, because if the braking will be a very complicated one, then it will be very difficult to operate those kind of tractions. Now it should have also a very good and simple speed control, so that its speed can be increased as per your will or our will, and it should also retard according to the will of the user. Now the DC motors. Characteristics of a series wound motor. In a series wound motor, the field winding is connected in series with the armature. Now, as we all know, that if the field winding is connected in series with the armature, then what will happen? Then it will take a, a very high amount of current. So, as a result, flux produced will be also high. So, if the flux is very high, then the graph between armature torque and the armature current will be the slope as in your screen. So this is the diagram of torque versus armature current for a series wound motor. Now the series field winding consists of a few turns of thick wire having low resistance, it may be seen that current passing through the field winding is the same as that in the armature. If the mechanical load of the motor increases, the armature current also increases. Hence, the flux in series motor increases with the increase in armature current, and which is vice versa also. Now, from the diagram, it is evident that with the increase in the load, the armature current will increase. If the armature current will increase, then the field flux will increase. Now, if the field flux will be increased, then what will happen? The torque produced will also get increased. Hence, the flux of the motor also increases with the increase in armature current, which is vice versa. Now, the torque versus armature current characteristics. As we know, that armature torque is proportional to phi into Ia. They are directly proportional to the product of the flux and the armature current. And since the field winding of the motor carries the armature current, therefore we can say that up to saturation, phi and Ia have a linear relationship. That means phi is proportional to Ia, we can say. That is, again, up to magnetic saturation, this flux is proportional to armature current. Now, armature current is proportional to Ia. So, up to magnetization saturation, the armature torque is proportional to the square of the armature current. If Ia is doubled, Ta is almost quadrupled, and therefore torque versus Ia curve is a parabola up to magnetic saturation. That is OA as shown in the diagram 9.3. So this was the diagram. So it is from O to A, this point. From this to this is O to A. However, after magnetic saturation, the torque is directly proportional to the armature current following a straight line path curve, that is AB, as in the diagram. So it may be seen that the characteristics that prior to magnetic saturation, armature torque is directly proportional to the square of the armature current. That is, the series motor exerts a torque proportional to the square of armature current. Hence, series motor are used where high starting torque is required, for example hoists, electric tractions, etc. Now we will discuss about the speed versus armature current characteristics. Here the speed N of series motor given by N is proportional to Eb by phi, where Eb is equal to V minus Ia whole into Ra plus Rs E, that means series field resistance. When the armature current increases, the back EMF Eb decreases due to Ia into Ra plus Rse drop, whereas the flux phi increases. However, hence the torque versus slip curve is a straight line from zero slip to a slip approximately corresponds to full load. Now, as slip is increased beyond full load slip, the torque increases and becomes maximum at S equal to R2 into X2, R2 divided by X2. So, this maximum torque in an induction motor is known as pull out torque or a breakdown torque. So, you have to remember this term. It is quite often asked in your semesters, what is a pull out torque, or sometimes it can also say what is a breakdown torque. Now, its value is at least twice the full load torque when the motor is operated at a rated voltage and frequency. When the slip is increased beyond that corresponding to maximum torque, the term S square x2 square increases very rapidly, so that r square r2 square may be neglected as compared to s2 square, S square x2 square, and therefore torque is proportional to S divided by S square into x2 square, and it is proportional, since torque is proportional or inversely proportional to S, as x2 is a constant, thus the torque is now inversely proportional to slip, and hence the torque versus slip curve is a hyperbola as in the diagram 9.21. Now it may be seen that the from torque versus slip characteristics, that the addition of resistance to the rotor circuit does not change the maximum value of torque, but it only changes the value of slip at which the maximum torque occurs. Now let us have a look to the diagram 9.21. So 9.21 is now. Okay, I will just make you show this diagram a little from now, while from now. So let us now discuss about, yes, now we will discuss about the single phase series motor. This motor have a disadvantage of low power factor and commutation difficulties. The latter are minimized by using low frequency. Another disadvantage of their low starting torque as compared to DC series motor, because of which they are not well suited for city and suburban services. However, they are well adapted for mainline services. Speed control in single phase series motor is done by variation of supply voltage. Usually, supply is obtained through a transformer provided with on-load tap changing devices. Now, what do you mean by on-loading tap changing devices? Actually, if we wish to change the output voltage of a transformer, or we wish to take the variable voltage with the load only, then by using on load tap changing devices we can easily access this varying voltages rather. However, the difficulty with on load tap changing is that when changing over from one tap to the other, the number of turns of the winding in between are short momentarily, producing a heavy current rush. Hence, a tapping choke is provided as shown in the figure along a short circuiting switch S. So now students, if this tap changing is done at any moment we wish, then there will be a momentarily short circuit position. So that for that reason only there is a switch S which will just make sure that there is no sparking or heavy current flows through them. So there is an arrangement of this switch S which controls the heavy sparks. So this S is there as you can see from the diagram. Now at the time of changing from the tap 1 to 2, so from here we can see this tap 1 is this one and that tap 2 is this one, right? So from changing from 1 to 2, what happens? They are momentarily short circuited with the help of switch, and at that time the taps are changed. Now the switch S is opened, allowing the turns to be sorted by the tapping choke, which prevents short circuit current between them. Switch S is now opened and changeover to tap 2 is effected. Now tap changing on HB traction system. Now the HB is a high voltage side. So how this tap changing are done in the HB side of the traction system? Tap changing on high voltage AC traction system at power frequency is generally through an auto transformer connected to the traction supply as in the diagram 9.24. So we will first check the diagram 9.24. So this is from the HB side. So this is an auto transformer. There are number of tappings to the main transformer and we are achieving the output voltage. Now the odd number taps, that is 1, 3, 5, are connected to one side of the tapping choke, while the even numbers on the other side. Full wave rectifiers are provided for DC supply to the traction motors. They are connected to the secondary side of the main transformer. Now smoothing chokes are provided to reduce the ripple currents, and for voltage variation in AC system, the voltage is varied to control the starting current as well as for the speed control. This is true for either system, whether at power frequency or at lower frequency. So for both of this frequency, this variation in AC voltage is made. A transformer is provided in the locomotive for stepping down the supply voltage. Tappings are provided on the secondary side for varying the voltage. So on the secondary side, tappings are provided. For high voltage tap changing, an additional auto transformer is generally employed. As the current in the primary winding is lower, more tappings can be provided on the HV side of the main transformer, because in that case it get a small voltage at start and the number of turns on the primary winding will have to be large. So for this reason only, as you can see in this diagram, there is another auto transformer. So with this, with the help of the auto transformer, the HV side tappings can be easily taken. Now in the low frequency system, taps are provided on the LV side as in the figure 9.25. So it is as it is shown, there is a line, there is a pantograph, and then there is a circuit breaker. You have a transformer, that is a tapped one. There are contactors, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, and a common, with a switch which gets momentarily short circuited, and there are field windings which can be reversed, right, which can be reversed as per your requirement. And there are two motors, M1 and M2. In the low frequency system, taps are provided on the LV side as in the diagram. Tapping choke is provided for a smooth changeover from one tap to another. Switch S is short circuiting, this switch S is short circuiting it. The operation is as follows. So how it is performed, let us understand. On tap 1, the contactor 1 and switch S is closed. On tap 1, so we will first tap the the number 1, right, tap 1, the contactor 1 and switch S is closed. So what will happen? Tapping choke is provided for a smooth changeover from one tap to another. Switch S is short circuited while tap 1 and contactor 1 and switch S is closed. 2, 3, 4 are open. Now this 2, 3 and 4 are open when this 1 is closed. Now for change to tap 2, what is the step? For changing it to tap 2, open the switch, because we have to open the switch first. Then what we'll do, close the switch 2, open 1, close S. While the tap is changed, tapping choke tends to stabilize the current. Now we have to perform this way, that if we require the tap for 3 also, we have to first open the switch. Then what we have to do, close 3, open 2, then close S. So this is the steps you should follow. While the tap is changed, the tapping choke tends to stabilize the current. While operating on any tap, the tapping choke is shorted, so that current flows through both halves of the choke and resulting ampere turns cancel out each other. So now there is an numerical, students, let us discuss also. An electric locomotive driven by two DC series motors. Mind you, there are two DC series motors. This one is clearly written that we are having two DC motors. Exerts a tractive effort of 2000 Newton watt or Newton while running at a speed of 50 km per hour. Determine the current taken from the supply operating at 500 volt, assuming an efficiency of 80%. Now power requirement is equal to tractive effort into speed. So this formula you should remember. This tractive requirement is equal to tractive effort into speed. Right. It is given in watts if the tractive effort is in newtons and the speed is in meters per second. Now power required is equal to 20,000. It is 20,000 into 50 into 1000. Why 50? 50 is the speed, right? And why it has been multiplied by 50? Because the speed is 50 km per hour. Now we have to make it in seconds, so divided by 60 into 60. That comes out to be 278 kilowatt. Now input of the motor, that is equal to 278 divided by 0.8. Now here the efficiency of the motor is given to be 80%, that is 0.8. So from here only we have taken 0.8, right? So 278 divided by 0.8 is equal to 374 into 5 kilowatt. This is the input. What about the current run from the supply? Current run from the supply is equal to 374.5 into 1000 divided by 500. What is this 500? This is the voltage, right? So it is equal to 695 amperes. So now there are some other problems also. Let us discuss this one also. An electric locomotive exerts a tractive effort of 4000 kg on level track at a speed of 50 km per hour. While going up an incline of 1 in 100, it has to exert a tractive effort of 5000 kg. Determine the horsepower of the motor if it has a DC series motor, and the second one is a induction motor. Now here, if in the first case if it is a DC motor, then power output on level track is equal to 4000 divided by 75 into 50 into 1000 divided by 60 into 60. Why this has been done? So as to convert them into in seconds. So we get that the power output levels is 740 horsepower. The speed is converted to meters per second. Now, however, the motor has to exert greater torque while going up to the incline, but it is not necessary that the motor power would also have to increase at the same ratio. In case of series motor, output is proportional to the square root of the torque. So for a series motor, the HP required is equal to 740 into root over of 5000 by 4000, which comes out to be 815 horsepower. In case of an induction motor or any shunt characteristics motors, output is proportional to torque. Here it is no more proportional to the square root of torque. Here the output is directly proportional to the torque. So HP required is equal to 740 divided by 5000 divided by 4000, which comes out to be 925 horsepower. So with this kind of problems, simple problems, you should prepare in your semesters. This numericals are very rarely asked, but still then you try to solve us some easy problems, and mostly from the I mean those solved problems from the exercise only. So in our next class we will discuss about the auxiliary equipments of the traction system, and we will discuss about their them in details. So thank you for watching, students.